listening to the Thornapple Valley Church podcast. Thank you for joining us. Our hope is for you to be encouraged and to connect with God during this message. If you'd like to know more about Thornapple Valley Church, visit tvcweb.com.
You know, I've always found it fascinating to watch how people respond to external stimulus. So it's always interesting to me because we're all wired a little bit differently in different ways. So, for example, if I were to go up to a couple, just two people, random people, like we'll just pick these two guys right here, and I were to give one of you a hug. Now I'm not talking about a creepy hug, but just go up and give you a thoughtful hug. One of you probably would be like, "Aw," and just hug right back. Whereas the other one would just be like this. And they would just freeze up. And they would like, "Why are you doing this? Never touch me again." You know, this is how they would be. And this is, in fact, I just thought, I'd love to know the demographics in this room. I was fascinated by last Thursday night, so I'm curious. How many of you would say that you're kind of just naturally, you're good with hugging? Hugging's all right with you. Look at all those hands going up. And okay, you can put your hands down now. Now, can I just ask, how many of you would say you're a freezer? When people hug you, you're kind of like this, and you'd really rather they didn't? Would you just lift your hand up? Hold it up a second. Huggers, look around, okay? Look around. And when you see them in the lobby after church, give them a big old hug, all right? Come on. I think I just blew it with those people, didn't I? So it's just so fascinating to me how different we are. And how our wiring will cause us to respond or to react to certain external stimulus so differently than other people. There's so many different ways. So let's do a couple more tests. And these are not right or wrong tests, all right? I just made all this garbage up, so don't worry about it, all right? This is real simple. But let's do a couple scenarios. And then you think about what your response would be in that scenario. So scenario number one. You get scared. Something scares you. So something pops up scary in front of you. You can figure out what that is. But how do you react? Are you, A, protective? Now, by that I mean when the thing that scares you pops up and you feel that scary emotion, do you lean back from it and maybe you would, reflexively bring your hands up to protect yourself? Are you a protector or a protective response? Or are you, B, an aggressor? Now, this is a much more rare commodity among people, but are you the kind of person when something comes up that scares you, instead of leaning back like this, you lean in and your fists come up? And you're like, "Come on, baby, I don't know who you are, but I'll take you on. Doesn't matter." Are you protective? Are you aggressive? Or are you, C, just simply alert? You're neither going to be an aggressor and you're not going to be defensive, but when something scares you, just, boom, you come up, you're alert. You're watching. You're seeing what it is, what you're assessing the situation. Which one of these do you think you are? All right, if you think you know, turn to the person next to you and tell them what you think you are if you know them, all right? Could I get a bottle of water back there? Is there somebody back there that can help me with that? All right, so I know I'm going to lose you because I see some of you looking at the other person going, "No, you're not. You are not aggressive. You are a chicken. I know you." So maybe the bigger question that I should ask is, of these three, which one do you wish you were, if it's different than what you already are? And then the second question would be, could you ever become that? Is it possible for you to change and become that thing? Is that possibility? All right, scenario number two. So this is where your life just kind of goes temporarily out of control. So the car breaks down and it's going to be super expensive, very difficult for you to deal with that thing. And you're going to maybe have to borrow money. Thank you so much for getting me that water. I really appreciate it, Greg. Thank you. And so you're going to have to borrow money, maybe put it on your credit card or something that's terrible. And then to top it off, you have a fight with your husband or wife or somebody in your family, your parents or one of your kids or something. And then on top of that, the toilet plugs of all times, right? So you got all those things. So you're out. It's kind of like everything is at least temporarily out of control. How do you respond? Are you, A, what I describe as a melter? That means when everything falls apart, so do you. You're just like, "Oh, no, everything's terrible." Is that you? Are you a melter? Or are you, B, an ignore? You're one of those people that just go, "This is not," you put blinders on, "This is not happening. I will just keep plowing right on through with my life and I will make it happen, whatever it is. Are you B, an ignorer? A melter, B, an ignorer, or are you C, an anticipator? Now, these people, they're quite rare, but when a problem comes up like that, where something really bad happens, instead of, melting and falling apart or ignoring it, you're like, let's get this done, baby, come on. You're an anticipator. You actually like it when stuff falls apart because then you can fix it. Or are you D, a roller? Again, these are all my descriptors, all right? So just take it or leave it, I don't care. And by a roller, I mean you just roll with it. You're one of those people like, dude, stuff happens in life, all right? Just relax. So which one are you? A melter, an ignorer, an anticipator, or a roller? If you think you know, turn and tell the person next to you. Come on, tell them. Okay. All right, I'm going to rein you back in, all right? So the second question then that I asked in the last scenario was, so which of these would you like to be if you're not that? And then even the more important question is, could you actually become that? Could you actually become that? That's a fascinating question, really. See, for most of us, we're probably a mixture of these different things, in our responses. We say, well, I'm this and I'm this, but you're going to be hardwired to be dominated by one of them. For the most part, you're going to be one of them because of how you're wired on the inside, because of how you're made up on the inside. You're just naturally bent in certain ways. You don't have to think. I mean, if you're one of those people that's an aggressor, you don't think, okay, what do I do here? You just come up with your fists. If you're a defensive person, you're going to, you're going to be protective like this. You don't have to stop and think. It's just a part of your hard wiring. But here's what's fascinating, and I find this very fascinating, that we now know, there's been a great deal of research done on this, that you actually can change how you react yourself. You can, by your choices, we know this now through research, change neural pathways in your mind. So many people don't believe that. They're like, we've heard this for years. People just go, well, a zebra's a zebra. You can paint it over the stripes, but it's still, when it comes right down to it, it is what it is, and I just am what I am. Actually, no. You can change how you respond. You can change how you act in life. You can change, in many regards, actually, who you are. This is a reality, folks. This is research, of course, long before there was ever any physiological research done to prove that we can change, by our consistent choices over and over, we can change neural pathways in our minds so that we, in effect, rewire ourselves. God was calling us to something that he knew we could do that long before anything was being done via research. He was telling us that we can grow, we can become. Scripture tells us in 1 Peter 2:2, it says, so like newborn babies. In other words, the understanding is you're not babies. You're adults. You're people who have become who you are in many ways. But as newborn babies, crave pure spiritual milk so that by it you may, would you read these two words? Okay, let's try it again, see if we can get 10 people to read them. So that by it you may grow up. Grow up in your salvation, that you may grow, that you may change, that you may... See, Christianity is not just about catching some grace from God so that you can make it to heaven and all that. We are called, if you're a follower of Jesus, and some of you I know, you're not sure where you're at with all that, and that's fine. We respect and welcome you here. You have to figure that out. But if you choose to become a follower of Jesus, from that point, you are called not to live in stasis, but to grow inside. Grow inside. Become a person. Doesn't matter whether you're a young dog or an old dog, God calls you to learn new tricks. Everybody is called and can grow. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why I love this church, because what this church has proved to me over the years is that actually does happen. Some of you, not a ton, but some of you, you've been around here for quite a while. And you and I, we've grown old together. Of course, you look older than me, but we've grown old together. That's not even possible, I understand, I'm just joking. And I've watched you. One of the things I love about being part of this church, I get to see behind the curtain a lot of stuff that y'all don't see. And I have watched so many people, and no, they're not perfect, but their spirit is sweeter, and their heart is bigger, and there's something about them. I've watched them grow. They have, by choices they've made, rewired much of who they are, and they've grown in their salvation. They've grown in their relationship with God. They've grown in who they are. And the people of TVC have proven to me that this is real. None of us, you are not stuck. You may feel like you are, but you are not stuck. So, of course, the question people, you can grow. And the question people have is, well, then how do I grow on the inside? And that's what this series has been about. I've been saying throughout, this is week number 4 in this series, I've been saying, are you growing internally? We put a lot of emphasis on how we look and in our clothes and our makeup or hair or our physique, all those things. We put a lot of emphasis on those. But I am challenging you, are you growing inside? Are you maturing? Are you growing up? And the question is, can you? Yes, you can. So are you? And as I said, we've been talking about how you do this over the last several weeks. And it's interesting, though, because I was thinking about it, and I think, honestly, that I see where it breaks down for a lot of people, because this is what happens. We go, okay, I want to grow, and we do the right things. We do the things that, you told me I should do this and this and this to grow, and then we see ourselves starting to grow, and it's so cool. And this is where the problem comes in, is that we think once we start growing, now listen, once I start doing the right things and start growing, I'm going to live happily ever after. Everything is going to go up and to the right. I'm going to be enjoying life. It's going to be good. Why should it not be? I'm doing all the right stuff. I'm growing. I'm becoming good. I see this happen in new Christians all the time. I have the privilege, of course, again, in my situation, to watch people who are adults or young adults or older teens. They make the decision to follow. They go through a dark season. They realize, I can't do it on my own. And so they become a follower of Christ. They give their heart to Christ. And they get this remarkable sense of peace and joy comes into their life, and they're like, wow, I don't know how I did it before I became a follower of Jesus, but now, and see, in their mind, they're going, this is so awesome. Now I don't have to be discouraged anymore because I've got Jesus in my life, and so everything's going to be up and to the right, and they pray and they read the Bible, and everything is so good and it's so wonderful until they hit a wall. And they will. I often think this when I see people who are brand new Christians. It's horrible because I'm like a really old Christian now, and I struggle somewhat with cynicism. So it's like they're coming up and going, "This is so amazing being a follower of Jesus." And on the outside, I'm like, "Isn't it? It's awesome." I'm celebrating and high fiving and fist bumping and all that. But on the inside, I'm going, "Yeah, but your day's coming, baby." Because walls come in people's lives. And you hit that thing, and it's unbelievable. Now, they come for 1,000 different reasons, but they all are pretty much, they feel the same. They are brutal. You get fired after years and years of working in a job that you've excelled at and never had anything but good reviews. You get diagnosed with cancer, and suddenly your entire future is up in the air, and you don't even know what life's going to look like. You're betrayed by someone that you had been totally loyal to and completely trusted, and they betrayed you in such a way that you felt like your gut was ripped out. You hit a wall. There's so many scenarios. You have a relationship that gets so damaged over time that it feels like it can never be repaired, and it's this huge loss, or you drop into some inexplicable funk, and you don't even know why it's happened, but you just feel like you're in this place of depression, and you cannot seem to get out of it. And when we hit these walls, and we all do, the only thing that any of us wants when we hit a wall is we want out. Come on, is that true? Because it doesn't just feel like I hit a wall. It feels like I hit the wall and then stopping there. Other walls came in around me and behind me, and now they're squeezing the life out of me. And in those places, it is not uncommon when you hit a wall for people who have said they love God and believe in Him and value their relationship with Him. It is not uncommon for them in those places to begin to question if He even exists. because it makes no sense that this would happen. And I've prayed and I've told God, my heart is ripped out over this thing. I'm broken over this. Help me, heal me, make this thing better. And it's not happening. One small miracle and this could all go away. And you're supposed to be the God of miracles? Where are you? Are you even there? This kind of thinking is very common for people when they hit the wall. Now, when I talk about hitting the wall, I need to clarify, I guess. I'm not talking about having a bad day or a bad week. I'm talking about something that you bump up against it, and it is like a shipwreck. And you are going to be weeks or months or a year or more dealing with this kind of thing. And you hit this thing, and man, it just feels like if God's there, he's not around. There's one of the psalmists in Psalm 73. I think this is so cool because he's so honest about this. By the way, this is from the Message paraphrase, but he's clearly in a dark place. What's going on here? Is God out to lunch? And then he kind of says facetiously, nobody's tending the store here. And this is what we often think. He begins to voice what we often think. Nobody knows what we're going through, and they're not going through it. He says, the wicked get by with everything. They got it made. They're piling up riches. He says, I've been stupid to play by the rules. What's it gotten me? A long run of bad luck, that's what. Slap in the face every time I walk out the door. And that kind of thinking, that kind of language in our heads is very common. Because the thing about walls is, they make no sense. What good is this? What good when you have a child die? You tell me what good there is in that. You tell me what sense that could ever make to anybody. These things happen to us and they seem insane and crazy, and there's no need for it, and it's not doing anybody any good. It's not doing any good. All the stress in my life, it helps no one. Or so it seems. Hitting walls, or you can call them the dark night of the soul, or verbiage that the Bible uses in the Old Testament in the Psalms, the valley of the shadow of death, where it feels like death is all around you and you're in this dark and low place. When you hit these things happen to all of us, and they're not, this is the thing about walls, and I know some of you at this point, you're like, I'm kind of depressed. Is this all you're going to talk about? And just hang on with me. But the thing about walls is they're not like a rite of passage. It's not like one and done, like, well, I'm glad I got that out of the way. Now it's going to just be joy. You get through a wall, and then you're at a place where you're going like, man, I just feel like now I want to get up in the morning. Food's starting to taste good again. Life's starting to look like I can anticipate what's ahead. I'm kind of excited about all that. And you go along, and you can be doing good, and it's up and to the right, maybe even for years. But then at some point, there's going to be another. You sound so excited about that. There's going to be another wall. It's true. And they almost always come out of nowhere. And they feel overwhelming, and they do not make sense. And what all walls hold in common is that you feel helpless because you can't control it. And you can't even fix it. Now, you can control your response to it, but you can't fix a child dying. Come on, is that true? You can't fix a diagnosis with cancer. You say, well, I'm going to use, whatever kind of pathic avenue to take it. You can't stop a diagnosis from having happened in your life. You can't fix someone betraying you. These things not only don't make sense, but they are out of our control in many ways. Walls are like seasons. I mean, you may say, I like spring and I love summer and I'm okay with fall, but winter, I don't. Listen, whether you like winter or not, baby, it's coming. And I don't mean that to be depressing. That's just a reality in life. These things are there. And they're so hard. Some of you you're at a wall right now. Some of you are coming off of one. Some of you are like, things are going good these days. Don't jinx it. I'm not gonna. But you will hit a wall. And some people aren't here because this is what happens when you hit a wall. You don't want to go to church. You don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to see people. Come on, you all know what I'm talking about? You just want to hide somewhere in a corner and be away from everybody. And what makes this really hard, and I really wrestled with whether or not I should say this. What makes walls exceptionally difficult if you're a follower of Jesus is that for some reason we Christians I don't know how to say it exactly. It's like, I think there's this thing in us that believes if we believe there is a God and that he loves us and that he's for us and wants to work in our lives, then why the heck would we ever be discouraged or depressed? And so we believe sort of at a core level, I hit this wall, but I should just be going, yay, Jesus, I hit a wall. Another opportunity for you to do something wonderful. But what I feel like is I feel pain and angst and woundedness, and I don't know what to do with it. And this is what happens too often in the church when you are honest enough to open up and say, when someone says, how you doing? Be honest, I'm in a dark place. And this thing has been happening in my life, and I don't even know how to fix it. And this is what Christians too often do, and I don't think they mean harm, but what they too often do is they start preaching to you, well, God has got this, and God's going to take care of it, and you just need to trust the Lord. And all that is true, but you should not do that. Can I just ask a question? Have any of you ever been in a dark place, and you opened up and you were honest with someone, and they begin to preach with you, to you, and instead of feeling like, thank you for preaching to me, you just want to hit them in the face as hard as you can? Anybody know what I'm talking about? I do think there's a time when you speak truth to somebody in their life, but when they hit a wall, what they need first is for you just to listen and say, that sucks and I hate that you're there. But too often Christians feel this obligatory need to preach to them, to tell them, you better trust God and it's going to be fine, everything's going to be okay. That may be true, but that is not what they need at this point. You may earn the right to say that down the road, but you start by listening to what they have to say. I don't know if anybody's aware of it. This is really good preaching right at this point. Now listen. Maybe this is just, I got to get this off my chest. But there's no question in my mind that I have done that many times over the years as a pastor here at TVC, that someone has told me about a dark place in their life, and I've just kind of resorted into preaching and going, well, God's got this, he's going to take care of blah, blah, blah. And I want to say to you, I am sorry. Because I was wrong. The wall is a horrific place to be. It feels like every nerve ending in your body has now been put on the outside, and even a gentle breeze hurts. And it is a hard and difficult place to be. It is a painful place to be. So what I want to say to you about walls, and this is, I hope you can hear this. They're inevitable. They hurt like hell. They're not easy, and they go over a way longer period than we want them to go. And I don't even know how to say this exactly, but I want you to hear this. And yet somehow, it's crazy, but somehow God uses those walls. I don't even understand how he does it, because in the middle of them, they don't make any sense. It's like, what possible use could this be to anybody for anything? But somehow God does this amazing thing with walls, and he's able to use them. And I'm not going to try to say, just buck up, just get it together. You're going to be fine. Be a man, be a woman, whatever. I'm not saying that. They're horrible. But I am telling you that in the midst of them, the thing that makes me more comfortable and brings me more hope than anything is to know that God can take these dark places in our lives and somehow in his way he uses them and grows us. You know, probably the poster child for this very thing is an Old Testament character named Joseph, whom, if you know his story, he was the favored son of a rich family, and he just seemed to have it all going on for him until his brothers, because they were jealous of him and they hated him, they sold him. They sold the human trafficking. They sold him to slave traders, and he became a slave in a large, rich household. He went from favored son in the rich, large household that he was in that family, now to a slave in a large, rich household. Talk about hitting a wall. Oh my gosh. Now, we don't have all the details on what was going on in him through this time, but apparently he kept his connection with God. And you would think, okay, that's going to make things better. And for a little while it looked like it because he worked his way up until he was head over all that household for the master that he was now the slave of. And that was a far cry from being the favored son in a wealthy family over here, but it was better than where he'd been at the low point. And he was moving up and it was looking better until, and you know the story, don't you? The wife accused him. His master's wife accused him of accosting her when in reality she had accosted him and he had pulled away from her, but she felt scorned, and so she threw him under the bus or chariot or whatever back then, you know, and he wound up in jail. Anybody ever feel like sometimes you don't even get through wall number 1 before wall number 2 shows up? It's like, what the, why is this happening to me? And I think what Joseph probably didn't know was that through all of this, what God was doing in the crucible of the pain of hitting walls in his life was he was shaping and forming his heart and his character so that he could take the place of what would come next, because he would go from favored son to slave to in prison to the leader of an entire nation, second only to the Pharaoh, as it were, who really didn't care about governing anything. And God would use him to save countless lives, including his own families, his brothers who sold him into slavery because of a coming famine. He saved them from starvation, and God used him in all those things. And it was in the crucible of the things that he never would have chosen himself that God caused him to become who he was. And there's an epic statement that he gives near the end of this story, because his brothers come and they're afraid after their dad dies he's going to retaliate. They sold him, as a slave, obviously, and he's got all this power now. And so they come and say, please, please. And this is his response. It's so amazing. He says, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? I love his heart. But I love this statement so much. He said, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. In other words, God superintended that which was dark and evil and wrong, and he did something good. He isn't even saying that God did it. He's saying you intended it for harm, but God took it. He said, and intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. What I can tell you is, and I don't even fully understand this, but what I know is that God takes these dark places in our lives, these walls, and somehow he uses them. Because, just listen now, because it's often only when we reach the depths that we reach in those dark places that we will touch the things that need to be changed in our souls. Did you hear that? It's stuff that we would never otherwise really deal with until we find ourselves in such a dark place that we have to turn and face it. God takes what is intended for harm and uses it for good. I actually heard a story not too long ago from a guy in our church. He's just telling me about what God has done in his life. And it so fit this. It's like a modern day parable of this thing. I asked if he'd come and talk with us about it because I thought you'd appreciate the story. So his name is Jim. Jim, would you come on? Jim Gray, would you come on up? Would you welcome Jim to the platform, please? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So welcome. Thanks for coming and being willing to share. So let's just jump right into this. My understanding is you had almost no religious background as a kid or whatever?
No, basically none. I can remember my mom dropping me off at Sunday school when I
So
was
like free
small.
babysitting is what you're
Free
saying. Yeah,
babysitting,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, she'd go to the grocery store, drop me off at Sunday school. I went to a couple of vacation Bible schools as a child, but after that, nothing.
Okay, so you have like zero religion, really, for the most part, in your life.
Zero.
And I think the way I heard it was kind of zero interest, really, in it.
Yeah, I had no desire. Got up.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. So, and then you got married.
I did.
And some things changed.
Yeah, yeah. What,
Well, yeah, a
of
lot
things
changes
changed.
when you get married, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things changed.
Good and bad, but let's just go
what
with...
changed was,
yeah.
was the Vicky, my wife, when we first met and we first dated and got engaged. She was very religious. She's a Christ follower, so she was a Catholic. So I'd go with her to Catholic church, and we
So many guys do that. And if you're here right now, best of luck to you. All right, that happens all the time.
Yeah,
You were going because you were hoping to...
get points with Vicky.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we went to church, and we went to church every Sunday, and they were doing the communion and confession and stuff. I didn't get all that, and I asked her about it. Said, okay, that's not going to work for me. So, so we did that, and then
So
of
then
course,
you got married.
had to take the class. Got married as a Catholic, and we continued going to Catholic church for a while after we first got married.
Now, do you have any kind of God connection, or are you just...
No.
You're just going to church?
Going to church.
But you're married now. You don't have to anymore, right?
Oh yeah. We're not going because I wanted to.
So you went to church for, I think the way you described it to me was decades.
Before I became a Christ follower, it was 35 years with my wife I went to church.
This is a hard case right here. 35 years you went to church.
Right, with her.
Yeah, and there was really no God connection. You were just doing it to be a good husband, just to, raise your kids right.
Yeah, we had 2 kids, and we wanted to, of course, my wife wanted 2 more, but I went along, obviously, to bring them up with church. So, we had them baptized. We were going to a Lutheran church for quite a while when they were growing up. So we had them go to catechism and do all that stuff, and as long as...
But then the kids left, and you still kept going to church.
I did.
Just now, it's just for Vicky, just for your wife. Right. Okay, so then we won't go into all the events, but you wound up you guys started coming to TVC.
Right.
What was that like? Like the first time you walked in? Because you'd been in the more, I would describe it as high church kind of background. What was that like for you?
Well, the first, we moved to Hastings in early 2000, and we were going to another church here in Hastings, and Vicky, I just kind of followed her along. She'd get tired of a church, and she'd say she wanted to try another one, and we did. So she saw the billboard back then that said "Got Church TVC." We didn't know what that was. Hadn't heard anything about TVC. Didn't know anybody that went there. But we decided we'd try that. So we came in, and like this. You hear the music, and wow, it's not a hymn. It's like music that we could kind of relate to. And then you started doing the sermons, and it was really interesting to me because it was more like you were just kind of talking to us. You weren't preaching. It wasn't very strict and very structured. It was more understandable. That probably didn't come across right. Yeah, I should have skipped that.
In other words, I sucked at preaching, but you
You were really interesting.
So you actually found it more engaging than your past church experience.
Absolutely. More comfortable.
Okay, more comfortable. So did you become a Christ follower then?
No.
So it wasn't that good.
No, apparently not.
So you came. So you came for a while, and I know that you moved away, and then you came back, moved to Grand Ledge, and decided to drive all the way out here because you felt like this was a church to go to.
Right.
Or Vicky did, or however, but you were coming here.
Right.
But then you had a dramatic change in your life.
Right. And so we moved back here in 2012. I took a job up near the Lansing area. And then we bought a house in Grand Ledge, so we were driving back and forth here. 2013, we bought a house in Middleville because my daughter and grandchildren were living in Middleville. We wanted to be closer. It was closer to church then. and obviously it was closer to the grandkids. Vicki wanted to get more involved in the church and women's groups and things like that, so it was kind of a long drive. So we decided to move back closer. So that was 2013. Not long after we bought our house in Middleville, was at work and got called into the office. The HR office got a call on my phone, come to the HR office. So I went into the HR office. The HR manager and the general manager were there, and this is kind of odd. Well,
Now you were managing.
I was a production manager there. Was in charge of 3 shifts of operation of all manufacturing. Had a couple hundred people reporting to me. So,
Okay.
Yeah. So I went in there and sat down, and they said we decided to go in a different direction. Your services are no longer needed here.
Would it be fair to say they fired you?
They fired me. Mm-hmm.
That must have been a shock.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. A recruiter had recruited me to come there. They paid for my moving expenses, paid me a great deal of money to come there and work for them. Thought I was doing a good job, had good reviews, bonuses, things like that, and yeah, it just came out of the blue. So it was a shock.
So what did that do to you?
Oh, it crushed me. I'd never been through anything like that in my life. Every job that I'd had recruiters calling me, saying people wanted to talk to me about coming to work for them. Never anything like this.
So all your life in this field that you've worked in for decades,
Mm-hmm.
I think, you've done really well.
Right.
Suddenly, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
But that shouldn't be a big deal because you had recruiters calling you all the time. Just get another stinking job.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, once I got over the initial shock, we got home and, Vicki and I talked, and Vicki went back to work full-time. She'd working part-time because we were doing very well, and so she went back to work full-time, and I thought, well, I'll put a few resumes out. This ain't going to take any time. Yeah, not so much. Put a lot of resumes out, dozens of resumes, and got no responses.
Nobody wants you
Nobody.
anymore. So what's that doing inside you?
It crushed me. It took all of my self-worth away. I'm the breadwinner of the family. That's all I'd ever done. It crushed me.
So it's fair to say you were in a pretty dark hole.
I was in a dark hole, and every day it just got darker. Vicki'd go off to work. I'd clean the house, do what I was supposed to do, and I'd just sit and wallow in my less of self-worth.
So this went on for
Weeks.
weeks and weeks.
Weeks and weeks.
And what happened?
So we were obviously still coming to church, and there was a few weeks into it. There were a couple weeks that we came to church, and your sermon just kind of rang to us, both of us actually. And when we were going home, we got out on 43, and Vicki and I turned to each other and said, it's like Jeff was at our house this week, and he knows what's going on with us. Relationship things and things like that, because obviously we were struggling because I had no self-worth, and it was affecting our relationship. So that happened twice, and she knew what was going on, but I thought, wow, this is really weird. So a few weeks later go by.
Church was more than just sitting there, enduring and going home.
Yeah. So a few weeks went by, and we came to church, and we thought it was just a regular day coming to church. And we walked in and sat over in our normal spot over there, and Brian starts playing his music, and I start sobbing. So
The music was that bad, is what you're saying.
yeah, I guess, I don't know. So yeah, I was sobbing like a child, and I looked over to make sure Vicki didn't see me first. I thought this is going to be kind of odd.
Can we get a handheld? Just bring a handheld up, please. Thanks.
So, looking around, making sure nobody sees me, acting like a child, and through all the music, I'm just crying. So your sermon started, and it was about if you have something that's on your heart that you can't handle, give it to God. He'll take care of it for you. It's too much for you to handle. That's what God's here for, to take care of it. And as I've said, the place was full just like it is now, but I swear you were just talking to me. It was just you and me in the room. You weren't talking to anyone else.
Thank you.
So the sermon obviously just took me. And after you were done with your sermon, you had a calling, and everybody...
Where I gave an invitation for people to come to Christ.
Come to Christ, and I put my head down, and everybody put their heads down. You said if you want to accept Christ and you want him to take over the things that are on your heart and you can't handle, and understand that God can take care of it for you, raise your hand. And I raised my hand, and I looked at you, and you looked at me, and you said, I see you, I got you, I'll take care of it. And afterwards I said the prayer, and I accepted Christ, and he took care of my issues.
So like you invited Christ into your life. You experienced something big at that time, even then?
Immediately, after I said the prayer with you, I felt like a weight of the world was lifted off me. It was altering. I can't explain it. It was just, I had no worries at that point. I went home and I started sleeping at night. It was crazy.
How long ago was that, Jim?
6 years ago.
6 years ago. You still feel like that same sense of you can trust God, it's okay?
Oh, yeah. I've had things that have gone on since then, and, the little things don't bother me so much, but I've had big things that have come up, and I have to get reminded that God will take care of it and stop pressuring myself, and I've done that, and there and again, he's just taking care of it. He's taking care of it for me.
All right. So, you hit a wall that felt like hell. Now you're 6 years the other side of that. Would you go through the wall again to have what you have today because of the wall?
Absolutely. I'd do it again. The problem that I have is that it took me too long. I'm sure that there were signs through the 35 years or 56 years of life that I had before that God was knocking on the door telling me that to let him in and he'd take care of it for me, and I didn't accept it. I wish that I had, mostly because I wish that I'd been more of a force like that for my children. I think obviously they'd have a better relationship with Christ if I was more of a leader in the family for doing that. So I regret that. I wish it would have happened sooner, but regret that it happened, not at all.
You'd go through it again for what?
Absolutely. For what I've got, I'm at peace.
Is that cool or what? I think that's good. Let's thank Jim for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
So I had a number of things that I was going to say after all this, but our time is gone. This is what I want to say to you. Walls come into our lives, and we don't want them, and we don't like them, and we can't see any sense in them. But we must never forget that God takes what was intended for harm, and this is just how he operates, and he does something good. He takes that which seems like nothing. Do you remember how Adam was created? God took dirt, and he made man, and then he made woman, and then the Bible says at the end of that day, he looked and saw that it was, does anybody know? Very good. So I'm only going to say this to you, and then we'll be done. Look, when you're in a wall, I had all these points I was going to give you and everything, but when you're in a wall, cut yourself some slack. You hit a wall. And it is not wrong to feel dark, to feel pain, to deal with it, to say this is overwhelming. It is not wrong to be where you are. You can't even fix that. So cut yourself a little slack on that. Here's the truth. If you own your own home, and if your home needed a significant upgrade or remodel, it's not just a matter of somebody coming in and slapping a coat of paint on it. Sometimes it has to be gutted, which is every bit as painful as it sounds. But it is only when you get down to gut level stuff that you're sometimes beginning to deal with the very thing that you need to deal with most in your life. So God takes the walls, and then he does this amazing thing. I can't tell you it's going to be easy or fun or any of that. I'm just saying, don't forget, somehow God uses walls. Amen? Somehow he does. But first, it starts with a relationship with Christ. So would you just bow your heads and close your eyes for a moment? And if you're, I'm not going to embarrass you or call anybody out or push on this, but if you've never given your life to Christ, or if you feel like you're far from God and you need to reconnect with him because you're so distant, I'd love to pray with you where you're seated. We won't make you stand up or come to the front or anything like that. But if that's you, would you just lift your hand and make eye contact with me real quickly, and then we'll pray. Okay, that's awesome. Anybody else? Just lift your hand up. All right, that's great. Over here, awesome, good. If that's you, okay, very cool. Just wave it at me if we haven't made eye contact yet, and we'll pray. All right, buddy, that's great. Anybody else? I don't want to miss this. All right, awesome. I want to get right with God. I'll pray with you in just a moment if you want to do that. Anyone else? Last call. Heads bowed, eyes closed, please. Still, just out of respect for others. Oh, back here. All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I can't pray this prayer for you, but you can pray it. Just say, God, I ask you to come in and take charge of my life. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to have it all figured out. None of us do. But if you believe that Jesus is God, if you believe that much, then you just say, I believe and I ask you to come in. I give you my heart. Just telling that right now. I give you my heart. I choose to follow you. Come in and take charge of my life. I give you my heart. And if you're serious, then you tell him, I'm serious. I will follow you. I'm going to come after you. I'm going to live for you. And now, God, every person that prayed that prayer, whether they lifted their hand or not, we pray that they would become increasingly aware of your presence, that they would feel your hand on them, your joy, your love, your peace. And we trust you to do that. And all the rest of us, for people who make decisions for you, we all together say, yay, God. We're so thankful for what he does. So thankful for what he does. All right, let's stand to our feet. And, if you made a decision for Christ, we'd love to put a book in your hand. It's called The 7 Basics, and you can get it out at the Next Step area or somewhere. Ask somebody, they'll get it in your hand. May you go with the blessing of God. And if you're in a wall, cut yourself some slack. God is using everything in your life to grow you. So in Jesus' name, you go in peace. Amen. Amen. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Thornapple Valley Church podcast. If you found this message encouraging, we invite you to share it. For more information, visit tvcweb.com.